Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Monday, December the 30th. We got a 6-game NBA slate for Monday night. We're going to go through this slate position by position, and I'll touch on the players that stand out to me the most. Just taking a first look at this slate. I'm recording this video on Sunday night, so these are just some of my early thoughts. We do have a lot of injury news that we're waiting on heading into Monday. We still need to know we still don't know the status of Giannis. He is questionable. Still don't know the status of Karl-Anthony Towns. He is questionable. Bradley Beal is questionable as well heading into Monday. Andrew Wiggins also questionable. I believe Lauri Markkanen is actually probable. He was sent home from Sunday's practice due to an illness, so we'll need to watch that. I know Satoransky's probable. Blake Griffin's actually doubtful. Aaron Gordon's questionable. Eric Bledsoe is actually probable, so he's expected to play. But there's a lot of injuries we're going to need to watch heading into Monday, specifically these top three guys like Karl-Anthony Towns, Giannis, Bradley Beal. Like, these are three injuries that just totally impact the slate. Guys that you weren't considering at all. If Giannis plays, I won't really consider Chris Middleton or Eric Bledsoe or these guys. If Giannis is out, these guys become some of my favorite plays. So we'll need to watch all these injuries heading into Monday. I do provide a lot of updated and in-depth content over on Patreon. So if you want some of my full updated thoughts, my full in-depth thoughts on this slate, you can check out my Patreon. I do a written article every day, Monday through Friday, where I write up the NBA slate, talk about my favorite plays. I do provide updates to that article, so once we get injury news, I'll tell you guys who I'm on based on the injury news. I give updated core plays over on Patreon as well. I also record a roster construction video. I usually record it around 4 o'clock Eastern time on Monday through Friday. Pretty much talk through how we should be looking to build out our lineups for that night's slate. Go over all the injury news that we have, at least as of the time I record the video. Give some of my updated thoughts on the slate. So you can check out all the in-depth content and all the updated content I have available on Patreon. If you have enjoyed these YouTube videos, and if these YouTube videos have provided you with or they've been very helpful to you, provided you with a lot of analysis, then I would suggest checking out the Patreon, seeing everything else I have to offer over there. I do provide content for NFL as well, and I will have content for the playoff slates, the divisional round, or the wild card round, the divisional round, the conference championship. I'll have content on Patreon for all three of those NFL slates. So check all that out. Drop a like on the video if you do enjoy. If you are new to the channel, then make sure you click that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. You can hit that notification bell as well, so that way you get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, you can check out my Twitter, link down below in the description, at DFS by Noah. If you want to give me a follow over on Twitter, feel free to do so. I'm pretty active over there. But let's go ahead and start off at point guard for today. So we do know that Trae Young's going to be out. We know Kyrie's going to be out as well. So our most expensive point guard today on DraftKings is Damian Lillard, 8,500 against the Suns. I think Damian Lillard's in play today. He's not going to be a core play for me now that his price is up to 8,500. I just don't need to jam in Lillard at this salary. There's guys I do prefer for cheaper on today's slate, especially when you look at the other positions. There's guys in the 7 to 8K range that I like a lot at other positions, specifically center. So I don't think Lillard's going to be a top priority for me today. He'll definitely be in my tournament player pool on Yahoo. He's $43. I'll probably have him in my tournament player pool over there, but I don't expect him to be one of my higher owned plays today. I like the matchup against the Suns. I like this game in general. Right now, this game does have a 231 total with a 4-point spread. Really, these last two night games, the 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock game, at least as of Sunday night, these are the only two games that we have totals for right now. Because Atlanta, Orlando, we're waiting for some injury news there. Miami, Washington, we're waiting for injury news there. Brooklyn, Minnesota, Milwaukee, Chicago, all those 4 games we're waiting for injury news on. So we don't have totals on those games right now. But this game, I expect, even with the other 4 games not having totals, I expect 231 and 4-point spread's probably going to be one of the better totals and close games of the night. So this Phoenix-Portland game is definitely going to be a game to target. Lillard's fine, just not going to be a top priority for me on today's slate. I think in this mid-range, I probably prefer to go to the guys on the other side. You got Devin Booker at 7,500, Ricky Rubio at 7,200. I think it was Friday night slate. We saw Ricky Rubio was really chalky on Friday night against the Warriors. He had a big game, or at least a relatively good game for his salary. He was 6,900 on that slate, had 44 DraftKings points, played 38 minutes. On Saturday, they played the Kings. He had 54 DraftKings points in 41 minutes. He's 7,500 today against Portland. This is a really good matchup, fast-paced game. Definitely have interest in Ricky Rubio or in Devin Booker. I do like Ricky Rubio as well, though. I mean, if you just look at like fantasy point per minute average this season, Rubio has actually been more productive than Booker in terms of fantasy points per minute. He barely beats out Booker. Both these guys are really good plays today. I don't think I'd want to play both in the same lineup unless I'm like running it back with someone from Portland. I'm like kind of game stacking. But I definitely like these guys on Yahoo as well. Booker is at shooting guard and he's $34. Rubio is at point guard and Rubio is $28. I think when you factor in that Rubio's 28, Booker's 34, I probably prefer Rubio at 28. On DraftKings, there's only a $300 difference, so it'd be very close between the two guys. Honestly, this probably might be a cop-out, but I would just take whichever guys expect to be the lower owned. I think it'd probably be Devin Booker just because he's been really good lately. He's had 2 really good games. People will play Booker just given that he's been much better lately. And people just see Devin Booker at like 7,500 and they just want to lock it in. And I mean, that's not a bad move. Like Booker's a good play still, but he's definitely taken a hit this season playing alongside Rubio. Rubio's been very productive as well. Rubio's just been nearly as good as Booker, if not better, in terms of fantasy and in terms of like fantasy points per game. So I like both guys. On Yahoo, I'd prefer Rubio, given he's $6 cheaper. On DraftKings, very close, but I'd probably prefer Booker. But it's really close between the two guys, honestly. I think both are in play for me. CJ McCollum feels a little bit too cheap, $6,600. This is really never a guy that I ever play. But when he's like $6,600, under $7K, I mean, he's definitely in play for me. For what it's worth, he had a monster game earlier this season against the Suns, 50 DraftKings points in 39 minutes. I mean, they're playing McCollum huge minutes right now, 37, 38 minutes a night. Like, he's played 38 minutes in like 7 of his last 10 games. Like, they're just running McCollum into the ground. They're playing him huge minutes. Obviously, he's not going to be that productive, like playing alongside guys like Hassan Whiteside, Damian Lillard, but still at 6,600, there's for sure upside for McCollum at that salary, especially in a fast-paced game. Derrick Rose, someone I want to talk about today. So I like him a ton over on Yahoo. He's only $21 over here. I think he stands out as one of the better overall point guard plays on Yahoo. I do like Rubio a lot at 28. I'm going to like Eric Bledsoe assuming he plays and Giannis is out. But Rose at 21 definitely stands out. It's just like an early look play. So we do know that the Pistons are going to be pretty thin for tonight's game. They're going to be missing Reggie Jackson. I believe Reggie Jackson's going to be out for at least a few more games. We'll need to keep an eye on that. I don't think he's expected to return just yet. So I'm assuming Jackson's going to be out. Markieff Morris is going to be out for this game. We do know that Luke Kennard is going to be out as well, and Markieff Morris is going to be out, and Blake Griffin going to be out as well. So the Pistons are going to be without Blake Griffin, Markieff Morris, Reggie Jackson, and Luke Kennard for this game against the Jazz. We do know that Markieff and Kennard are out. Reggie hasn't been confirmed out yet, but I believe he's not going to play, and then Blake Griffin's doubtful. So I'm assuming all 4 of those guys are going to be out today. And we could run the numbers this season with all 4 of those guys off the floor. It's a small sample size, only 88 minutes, but Derrick Rose has a 36% usage rate, averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute with a 61% assist percentage. I mean, you just look at the numbers this season with just Blake Griffin off the floor. Derrick Rose sees a big bump in usage. He's been really productive when Blake's off the floor. I like him a ton on today's slate. I think you can definitely target him at 6,300 on DK. But where he's $21 on Yahoo, that's where I really like Derrick Rose today. The only thing that really caps his upside is that the Pistons don't give him big minutes. Like, I don't think he's played 30 minutes at all this season. Like, he's been pretty much 26 to 28 minutes most nights, 27 minutes last game against the Spurs. Like, if Derrick Rose played 36 minutes, like, he'd probably put up 50 fantasy points, or he'd have 50 fantasy point upside. His upside is definitely capped, given that they don't give him 30-plus minutes. But even in 26, 28 minutes, with how productive he's been this season, with just Blake Griffin off the floor, even in a tough matchup against the Jazz in a slow-paced game, I still have a lot of interest in Derrick Rose at his Yahoo salary today. I think on DraftKings you can also consider him as well at 6,300. Gary Payton, a wait and see for me. If Bradley Beal is out, I like Gary Payton quite a bit, even with his salary up. He's still really cheap on Yahoo. I think he's $17 at either point guard or shooting guard. Let's see, where's Gary Payton? I thought he was point guard, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Gary Payton, $17 at point guard on Yahoo. I mean, in his 3 games with the Wizards so far, he's played 34, 30, and 30 minutes, 46, 31, and 40 fantasy points. I mean, he's probably going to play 30 minutes again, regardless of if Beal's out or not. With his price tag up, though, I definitely want I want Beal to be out now that Payton's price is up. Like, when Payton was, like, really cheap on Yahoo the last few days, I would just lock him in. now that his price is coming up, I'm a little hesitant now with the price up there. I do want Beal to be out. But I think Satoransky's fine at 6,100. He's been playing much better as of late, been very productive, getting pretty good minutes, over 35 DraftKings points in 5 straight games. I mean, he's pretty much gave you good value on the salary, like 5 games in a row. Wouldn't be surprised if he keeps it up here. Fast-paced game against the Bucks, pace-up spot. Definitely have interest in Satoransky. Kevin Huerter, someone I want to talk about over on Yahoo. So he is really cheap over here, only $13. It sucks to say it, but I think the Hawks are going to be a team I get quite a bit of exposure to today, especially on Yahoo, because a lot of these guys are just too cheap today. We do know that Trae Young is going to be out for the Hawks, which definitely has a big impact. I mean, Trae Young's the highest usage player on this team. With Young off the floor, we're going to see guys like Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins. These guys are going to soak up usage that Trae Young was getting. I mean, we can run the numbers. Like, they're not great when you look at the numbers this season with Trae Young off the floor. Like, none of these guys really stand out as, like, must-plays. But I'll show you guys the numbers just so you can see. I know Herter's been like a 0.8 or 0.9 fantasy point per minute player this season with Young off the floor. 0.79 or 0.79 fantasy point per minute player. Cam Reddish has been a 0.82 fantasy point per minute player. DeAndre Hunter, 0.8 fantasy point per minute player. I mean, the real beneficiary here is definitely John Collins. I mean, John Collins, second on the team in usage with Trae Young off the floor. 26.6% usage rate, averaging 1.27 fantasy points per minute. I believe Jabari Parker's expected to be out. Let me just confirm that real quick. I think he's doubtful for this game. Yeah, Parker's doubtful, so we can actually run the numbers with him off the floor as well, because he's actually been a big beneficiary with Young off the floor, but we can take him off and see if there's any beneficiaries there. I imagine it's probably just like John Collins. But with Young and Parker both off the floor, still, John Collins leads the team in usage at 29%, averaging 1.34 fantasy points per minute. DeAndre Hunter, second on the team in usage at 24.7%, only averaging 0.69 fantasy points per minute, which isn't great. But you see Cam Reddish averages 0.9 fantasy points per minute. Where's Kevin Huerter? Kevin Huerter averages 0.86. So both of like Reddish, Huerter, even DeAndre Hunter, these guys are probably going to be like 0.8, 0.9 fantasy point per minute players with Trae Young off the floor. We're going to see Kevin Huerter play a lot of point guard in this game. I mean, he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. I know Trae Young was out in that last game against the Bulls, and like all these guys sucked. I mean, the Hawks just got absolutely blown out in that game. They lost by 35. You still got 29 minutes, though, nearly 30 minutes from Kevin Huerter. I mean, he only had 10 fantasy points in 30 minutes, but that was definitely a tough matchup. The Bulls have been really good defensively against guards this season. This isn't the best spot either against the Magic, but I mean, Kevin Huerter, he's played in blowouts this season. He played in the fourth quarter in that game. Like, they had him on the floor, even though it was a blowout. They had John Collins on the floor, even though it was a blowout. So really, I don't get concerned with like blowouts here for the Hawks, because these guys will still be out there in a blowout. Huerter at $13 at shooting guard on Yahoo, I think, is a really good value. I mean, I just expect him to be a much more productive player when he's not playing alongside Trae Young. He's going to have the ball in his hands more, going to have the opportunity for assists. There's more shots to go around when you take Trae Young off the floor. Obviously, this Hawks offense is going to be incredibly inefficient with Young off the floor, but still, these guys are going to soak up a lot of usage, and they're still really cheap on Yahoo. Where Kevin Huerter got priced up to $6K on DraftKings, I can definitely look elsewhere. Like if Giannis is out and Eric Bledsoe plays, like Eric Bledsoe at $5,700 probably becomes one of the best plays on the slate, assuming that he's not limited, which we'll have to wait and see in terms of that. I don't know if we'll get that news before lock, but hopefully we will. Maybe when we get some news on Giannis, we'll get some news on the status of Bledsoe as well, and if he's going to be limited. But definitely keep an eye on that. Eric Bledsoe for $5,700. If Giannis sits, I mean, he'd be a top play today. Jeff Teague, even with Towns and Wiggins out, he really hasn't been doing much recently. He played 27 minutes last game against Cleveland. It was a good matchup, and he only put up 25 DraftKings points. Like, I still like to target Jeff Teague, especially when Towns is out, especially if Wiggins is out too. His price is still cheap on DraftKings, so I'll definitely have him in my player pool for sure tonight. $5,500 against Brooklyn. I like that matchup. I still have interest in Teague, even though people might shy away from him. Isaiah Thomas I'll like quite a bit if Bradley Beal is out, even in a tough matchup. Gordon Dragic has been really good recently, coming off the bench, playing pretty good minutes, 29, 30, got 35 minutes last game against Philly, 35 DraftKings points in that game. Like, he's been pretty much a point-per-minute player this season. $5,200 in a great matchup against the Wizards. If we're going to get 30 minutes of Gordon Dragic, he's definitely in play for me at $5,200, especially since we know that Justice Winslow is going to remain out. I think Kendrick Nunn's minutes have been down. Yeah, his minutes have been down recently. I imagine a lot of that has to do with Dragic healthy now. So between like Nunn and Dragic, I would prefer Dragic there. DiVincenzo, I have interest in if Giannis is out, but less interest now that Eric Bledsoe is expected to be back. Like his minutes are probably going to go down. Honestly, I'd probably take that back. I really don't like DiVincenzo with Bledsoe back. That's really going to he's going to lose a lot of minutes. I imagine they'd probably move him back to the bench. I guess we'll just have to wait and see there. But for value at point guard, Napier continues to start at point guard, and I mean, he hasn't been great recently. 22, 23 minutes the last two games, just 22 and 16 DraftKings points. He's up to 4,700 on DraftKings, so he's definitely not like a must-play value. I think he's still cheap on Yahoo, if I'm not mistaken. He's $11 on Yahoo, so I think you can still consider Napier today in a matchup against Brooklyn. Fast-paced game, especially if Towns and Wiggins are both out. Like, I will have quite a bit of interest in Napier. His Yahoo salary of $11, even on DK, would be in consideration for me. Tim Frazier's been starting recently, but only playing about 20 to 22 minutes. I think his minute ceiling is probably like 26 to 28. I don't think you're ever going to see Tim Frazier play more than 30 minutes. I mean, but with no Luke Kennard, no Blake Griffin for this game, no Markieff Morris, that's going to open up a lot of usage. I mean, a lot of shot opportunity for someone like Tim Frazier. He's a fine value. Definitely not my favorite play, but he'd probably be in my player pool, especially if we don't get like any value opening up throughout the day. But let's go ahead and talk about shooting guard now. So at shooting guard, I definitely want to start off with some of the top options here. Chris Middleton at 8,100. If Giannis is out today, I do have some interest in him. With Eric Bledsoe coming back, I don't think Middleton's like a must-play by any means, especially now that he's up to 8,100 on DraftKings. Like if I'm going to play someone from the Bucks today, if Giannis is out, it's definitely going to be Eric Bledsoe, given that he's only 5,700. Like Middleton needs probably 50 DraftKings points to be a good tournament play at this salary. Obviously, he has that upside in him, especially if Giannis is out. I mean, his usage rate skyrockets, his fantasy point per minute average skyrockets as well, but wouldn't be like a must-play. Yahoo at $35, that's probably where I'd be like jamming him in the most if I was going to play him anywhere. But Jimmy Butler's someone I want to talk about, 7,800 on DraftKings in a matchup against the Wizards. I mean, I love this spot for Jimmy Butler. We just look at the numbers this season. I've said it so much like this season. You guys know this by now, but the Wizards are one of the better teams to target in terms of like for NBA DFS, I guess. I mean, they're a top 3 team in pace. They rank 3rd in pace this season. They're dead last in defensive rating. They're dead last in rebound percentage. Defensive rebound percentage, they rank 29th. Offensive rebound percentage, they rank 21st. Like, this is a fast-paced team that plays no defense and struggles on the boards. Jimmy Butler's in a great spot here. Even with Goran Dragic coming back, we're still seeing Jimmy Butler play heavy minutes, 34, 36 minutes a night. If this game could stay close and we get 34 to 36 minutes of Jimmy Butler against the Wizards, like, he could absolutely go off in this spot. He put up 68 DraftKings points in 36 minutes earlier this season against the Wizards. He had a triple-double in that game. I know that Dragic was out in that game, which, I mean, that helped Butler a little bit. But still, I expect him to be the most productive player on this team, the highest usage player. Like, Jimmy Butler he's already been too cheap on DK for the last few games, and now that he's 7,800 against the Wizards, like, he's definitely a play for me. I think he has pretty much like a 40-point floor in this game. If it stays close, he's got like a 50, 55, even 60-point ceiling. Love Jimmy Butler today. I think you can definitely target him on Yahoo as well. He's at shooting guard. He's $43. But if Giannis is out, then I'm going to be prioritizing Chris Middleton, who's $35, over Jimmy Butler. Where Middleton's more expensive than Butler, though, I think I'd actually prefer Butler today, even if Giannis is out. But other shooting guards, you got Booker you could go to at 7,500, who I talked about. Andrew Wiggins going to be an injury we need to watch heading into Monday. He's questionable. I talked about McCollum, Rose, Payton. I do have some interest in all three of those guys. Herter, I have a lot of interest in over on Yahoo. Troy Brown, I think, is a fine option at 5,800, but definitely like not a core play for me, especially now that the Wizards are starting to get some of their guys back, like Jordan McRae's back. Troy Brown still played 38 minutes last game. I think he did start in that game as well. I didn't play any NBA DFS on Saturday, so I'm not exactly sure. But I mean, right here it says he did start Saturday. So if we're going to get Troy Brown starting again, playing big minutes, even in a tough matchup, I mean, you could consider him. But other shooting guard plays, if we're looking for value, there's a couple values I want to hit on. So Bruce Brown, I really like at 4,700. With no Luke Kennard, Bruce Brown has been coming off the bench recently, which is definitely a surprise. They've been actually starting Tim Frazier at point guard and then having Bruce Brown come off the bench. They've been starting Svi at the 2 and then Tony Snell at the 3. I honestly have no idea what the Pistons starting lineup is going to look like today with Blake Griffin and Luke Kennard out. Like, do they start Christian Wood at power forward and then continue to start the three guys that they've been starting? So Tim Frazier at the 1, Svi at the 2, and Tony Snell at the 3. Do they stick with that and then start Wood and Drummond in the front court, or do they maybe like shift everybody down? So maybe they start Tony Snell at the 4, and then they maybe move Bruce Brown back into the starting lineup. Like, I have no idea. I mean, they could maybe start Thon Maker. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Even if Bruce Brown comes off the bench, I mean, he's still in line to play big minutes. He's played 27, 33 minutes the last 2 games. We can look at his usage this season with all those guys off the floor. He's actually been a very productive player this season with Blake Griffin off the floor, but you can take Markieff off as well. You can take Luke Kennard off since we know they're going to be out. Reggie Jackson, I expect, remains out as well. Pretty sure Bruce Brown's been over a fantasy point per minute player. Yeah, 110 minutes this season with all 4 of those guys off the floor. Bruce Brown, not a high usage player, but is averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute, which is very good for his salary. I mean, if you get 30 minutes of Bruce Brown averaging 1.18 fantasy points per minute, like, he probably projects for about 30 to 35 DraftKings points. Bad matchup against Utah, but the price is really low on both sides. He's $4,700 on DK. He's point guard on Yahoo, which sucks, but he's still cheap, $14. Definitely like him as a value on both sides. I do prefer him more on DraftKings, given that you can roster him at shooting guard and small forward. But even on Yahoo, he would definitely be in my player pool. There are a lot of point guards I like today. Like, I like Rose a ton. I like Rubio. I like Bledsoe if Giannis is out. In this mid-range, I'm going to have interest in Isaiah Thomas if Bradley Beal remains out. Gary Payton, I'm going to like if Beal is out. Napier, I'm going to like, especially if Towns and Wiggins are out. But still, Bruce Brown, I will get some exposure to at $14. I just think he's going to be very productive with those guys off the floor. Like, we've seen this season when, like, one of Andre Drummond or Blake Griffin misses, like, Bruce Brown has legit upside. He's gone for 50 DraftKings points this season whenever those guys have been off the floor. So I really like him at shooting guard, small forward. Cam Reddish at the same salary, I think, is also a pretty good option. Started at point guard last game. I expect that to continue with Trae Young out. He's been about a 0.9 fantasy point per minute player this season with Young off the floor. 4,700, definitely in play for me as a value. Jordan McRae, we saw get decent minutes last game. His first game back from injury, they said they were going to limit his minutes, and they did do that. He only played 15 minutes against Detroit, 22 DraftKings points. But last game against the Knicks, he played 29 minutes in that game and had 32 DraftKings points. I think if Bradley Beal sits today, you can definitely go back to Jordan McRae, even with his price up to 4,600. Like, he's been a productive player this season, especially if Beal is out. You're taking that most high usage player off the floor for the Wizards. A lot of guys like McRae, Isaiah Thomas, these guys, Troy Brown, like, these guys are going to soak up a lot of that usage. So I do have interest in McRae as a value at 4,600 if Beal is out today. There's like a lot of like if-then statements today. Like, a lot of the plays I've talked about are kind of like if this guy's out. We just kind of have to wait and see with the injury news. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I will have a lot of my updated thoughts, in-depth thoughts available over on Patreon. My article, my roster construction video, my updated core plays are all available over there. So you can check that out down below in the description. But moving on to small forward and looking at this position, Giannis at the top here, 11-2 against the Bulls. I don't think Giannis is going to be a top priority for me on this slate, even if he does play. There are other guys I'd probably rather spend on. Like center, I think, is a loaded today at the top. Drummond playing without Blake Griffin, 9,300 I have interest in. I think Vucevic is in a really good spot against the Hawks, 7,900. Bam Adebayo, I love against the Wizards. Whiteside is only 7,100 against the Suns. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pay up for Giannis today. I think I'm probably going to be looking to the mid-range unless we get a lot of great value. Like Butler, I really like in that 7K range. There's just a lot of guys like in the 8K to 7K range that I have a lot of conviction on today. So don't see myself spending 11-2 on Giannis even if he plays today. I think small forward's a position. You got a lot of good mid-range options. Like Jonathan Isaac, someone I want to talk about. I like him a lot here against the Hawks, especially since Aaron Gordon has a chance to miss this game. Just this season with Gordon off the floor, it really hasn't made much of a difference for Jonathan Isaac. But we know how high upside of a player this guy is. He's got double-double potential with the chance to rack up 6, 7 blocks, 5, 6 steals. Like, he has 5x5 upside, especially in a matchup against the Hawks, a team that plays sloppy, that'll turn the ball over. Pace-up spot for the Magic as well. Really like Jonathan Isaac at 6,500. I like him a lot on Yahoo as well at small forward. Definitely one of my favorite small forward plays, along with Chris Middleton, assuming Giannis is out. $35 for Middleton, 25 for Isaac. Those will probably be two of my higher owned small forwards today over on Yahoo. But other small forwards, Satoransky you can play here, who I talked about, have interest in today. If you want to go to him, I think Troy Brown's in play for 5,800, just given how many minutes he's playing right now. Aaron Gordon's questionable, so we'll need to watch that heading into Monday. Honestly, I probably think he misses this game. There was news like he messed up his Achilles or something. It was like bruised, I believe, or I can't exactly remember what it was. I know they said it on Yahoo in their blurb. I can read it real quick. Yeah, Achilles soreness for Aaron Gordon. So Achilles soreness, I imagine he probably sits this one out. I'm assuming he's going to be out today. So that really doesn't affect much. I mean, you're probably going to see someone like Wes Iwundu move into the starting lineup, but I don't want to play Wes Iwundu. If anything, that's just like a slight boost to Jonathan Isaac, slight boost to Vucevic, maybe a small boost to Evan Fournier as well. So yeah, just looking for value at small forward. Carmelo's price is way down on DraftKings, 5,300. I think you can definitely play him against the Suns here, now that his price has come down quite a bit. I mean, he had a monster game earlier this season against the Suns, 46 DraftKings points in 34 minutes. He's still playing huge minutes right now, 34 to 36 minutes for Melo. Just these last few games, he's just been really cold from the field, like 35%, 38%. The nights where he's making 50% of his shots, like he's going to put up 35, close to 40 DraftKings points, which is great value at 5,300. Melo definitely stands out on DK today as one of the better small forward plays, especially because his price is so low. But Reddish you have that you can play a small forward. I think you can play Jimmy Butler here. You can play Bruce Brown here. Terrence Ross, if Aaron Gordon is out, you can definitely play Terrence Ross in that situation or in that case. DeAndre Bembry, I thought I'd have interest in with Trae Young out, but he just hasn't been really getting the minutes. I mean, he did get 22 minutes last game. Wasn't very productive. He came off the bench. I imagine he's going to continue to come off the bench and probably play like 22 to 24 minutes. So really hard for me to consider him a top value, even where he's really cheap, 3,700. I think there is upside, though, for Bembry with Trae Young off the floor, even if he's only getting like 24 minutes. But yeah, let's go ahead and move over to power forward now and talk about this position. So at power forward at the top here, you got Giannis, 11-2, who we talked about. John Collins, I have a lot of interest in today. 8,700 on DraftKings is a pretty tough price to stomach. I mean, at that salary, you're going to need him to get about 50 DraftKings points or more to be a good tournament play at that salary, which he can obviously do. I mean, he did it in his last game against the Bulls. Even in a game where the Hawks lost by 35, John Collins still had 55 DraftKings points, 34 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 blocks, and a steal. That was a great matchup against the Bulls. This is definitely a tougher matchup against the Magic. If I'm going to play John Collins, though, it's definitely going to be over on Yahoo. I think that's where I have the most interest in him. He's $36. I think he is underpriced over there. Just a couple dollars underpriced. Like, he should probably be like $41, $42. You are getting Collins at quite a discount. We can look at his numbers this season with both Trae Young and Jabari Parker off the floor. I mean, I showed it earlier in the video, but I'll pull it up just one more time to show you guys. I know he leads the team in usage. I think he averages about 1.34 fantasy points per minute. Yeah, 1.34 fantasy points per minute with a 29% usage rate, 29% usage rate with a 17% assist percentage and 15% total rebound percentage. That's in 96 minutes of playing time. Like, John Collins is going to be the clear number one guy in terms of scoring for the Hawks right now. He'll play in a blowout as well. They played him in a blowout last game. Even if this game gets ugly, John Collins will still be out there. So I like him a ton at $36. He feels very safe at this salary. For cash, I think he's definitely in play on Yahoo and in tournaments. I still like him quite a bit because I think the upside is there, especially if the game can stay close. But Isaac I like as well in that game. You could definitely look to. Lauri Markkanen will be an injury we need to watch. If Lauri Markkanen is out, we might see Thaddeus Young move into the starting lineup, and he is really cheap on DraftKings, 4,100. Young's been a relatively productive player this season when given the minutes. Pace-up matchup against the Bucks, fast-paced game. I think Thaddeus Young will be someone I keep my eye on. We'll need to watch that status of Lauri Markkanen heading into Monday. Like I said, he was sent home from Sunday's practice, so I would consider him that he's probably questionable for this game with an illness. So that'll be something worth monitoring. Wendell Carter, I imagine, is more productive with Markkanen off the floor. I can actually look that up real quick, and we can just see. I mean, I imagine he's probably like a better, or his rebound percentage probably goes up when you take Markkanen off the floor. So let's see. So 294 minutes this season with Markkanen off the floor. Obviously, Wendell Carter as a center is not going to be a high usage player, but averages 0.92 fantasy points per minute, 21% total rebound percentage, which is pretty high. We'll see if anything changes here in the differential. So Wendell Carter, actually his usage goes down with Marking off the floor. He averages 0.01 fantasy points per minute, so it really doesn't make much of a difference. Thaddeus Young's been a little bit more productive with Marking off. I mean, that makes sense. Like, he's pretty much just been Marking's backup, but 0.04 fantasy point per minute bump in his numbers see a 0.04 fantasy point per minute bump. The biggest beneficiary this season in terms of usage has been Shaq Harrison whenever Markkinen's off the floor. And he's also been much more productive in terms of fantasy point per minute average. I don't think Markkinen's missed a game this season. Maybe he has. If he did, I wonder who started in that game. If they like moved their lineup over and maybe started like a guard or something. Like I think Markkinen actually did miss a game this season. They like shifted everybody down and they started Shaq Harrison, which would definitely put him in play as a value. We'll kind of have to wait and see there if Markkinen plays today. If he's out and like Shaq Harrison starts, I'd like him as a value. I'm sure he's really cheap. Yeah, he's minimum salary on DraftKings, so he will be someone worth targeting, especially with how good his numbers have been with Markkinen off the floor. I mean, he's not getting minutes right now, but I imagine that would change if Markkinen sits. Maybe Thaddeus Young starts as well. We'll just kind of have to wait and see there. But other power forwards, if Giannis is out, I think you could definitely look to Ersan. I mean, Ersan's been so good just the last few games with Giannis out. He's played 24 and 27 minutes, 42 and 47 DraftKings points. Like, he's just been a double-double machine. I know he's still really cheap on Yahoo. I think he's like $17, if I'm not mistaken. $18 on Yahoo. Even though the price is coming up on Ersan, like, he's shown that he can be productive. It's a great matchup against the Bulls, who have been one of the worst teams versus power forwards this season. Still really like Ersan if Giannis is out today. Love Carmelo at his DraftKings salary. I think Carmelo is way too cheap today. If we're going for value, though, at power forward, I know Jonathan Williams started the last game. I did see that on Saturday. Like I said, I didn't play any NBA DFS on Saturday, but I saw that starting lineup on my Twitter timeline. He only played 14 minutes, just 8 DraftKings points, which is definitely concerning. Price came up as well. That's probably just an avoid for me. The guy I want to talk about at power forward as a value is Christian Wood. So with no Blake Griffin and no Markieff Morris for this game, we could potentially see Christian Wood start at power forward today. I'm not sure if they'll do that. I know this season and just in their last game against the Spurs, they did play Christian Wood and Andre Drummond alongside each other, which is definitely encouraging. It's not like Christian Wood has just been Andre Drummond's backup. Like, they'll play alongside each other. If we get Christian Wood starting at power forward for 3,800, like, this guy's been a fantasy point per minute player this season when given the minutes. Like, he can put up a fantasy point per minute. If we get 24, 26 minutes of Christian Wood, which I think is very likely if he starts, I think it's possible he plays like 30 to 32 minutes. Only 3,800 on DraftKings. He looks like one of the better values on the slate right now. And what I love on DK is that you can play him at power forward or center. On Yahoo, you have to play him at center, which really sucks because there's a lot of good center plays I like today. But still think Christian Wood's in play as a value over there. Just prefer him more on DK given the power forward eligibility. Like, I don't think he'll start today. Like, I have a feeling they're either going to start Thon Maker at power forward or they're just going to like shift everybody down and then maybe start Tony Snell at power forward and maybe Bruce Brown moves into the starting lineup. This is a 9 o'clock game, so I don't know if we'll get that news before lock. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But Christian Wood, I'm going to have interest in regardless. I think he's going to play a lot of 4. He'll play some 5. He's going to be on the floor alongside Andre Drummond in this game. With no Markieff, no Blake Griffin, that's pretty much a lot of those guys' minutes are going to go to someone like Christian Wood. But yeah, let's go ahead and talk about center real quick just before we end the video. So at the top of the center position, if Karl Anthony Towns plays today, which I don't know if we'll get that news before lock, but if he plays, smash spot for him against Brooklyn. We know how bad this Brooklyn team is versus bigs, versus centers. Towns put up a monster game this season against Brooklyn when they faced earlier on. 73 DraftKings points in 38 minutes, had 36 points and 14 rebounds, 3 assists and 3 blocks and 3 steals. Really like Towns at 10K if he is in. Andre Drummond I love as well. We know that Blake Griffin is out for this game, and with Blake Griffin doubtful, I should say, with Griffin off the floor this season, Drummond has been much more productive against Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. I mean, it's not that good of a matchup, but we know Drummond's going to play huge minutes, 36, 38 minutes. If the game stays close, he's pretty much a lock for a double-double. He has 20 and 20 upside when Blake Griffin's off the floor. So I do like Drummond quite a bit. But given some of the centers in the 7K range that I love today, I'm not going to include Drummond in the core. I love Bam Adebayo today, and I think he's probably one of my favorite plays on the slate. 7,600 on DraftKings. Over on Yahoo, he's at $36, where I think he's severely underpriced. This is a great matchup for Adebayo. I've talked about it when I talked about Jimmy Butler, but the Wizards this season, top 3 team in pace. They're ranked 3rd in pace, dead last in defensive rating. They're also dead last in rebound percentage, one of the worst rebounding teams this season. So this is a spot where Bam Adebayo could just absolutely dominate on the boards. I mean, he's averaged over 10 rebounds a game this season. He's pretty much a lock for a double-double if the game stays close. Like, he's going to play huge minutes. They're giving Bam 36 to 38 minutes a night, which is something we usually don't see out of centers. Like, usually centers don't play that many minutes. They usually play like 30 to 32. But they're just running Bam into the ground, playing him huge minutes. I mean, he played 40 minutes last game against the Sixers, and I'm pretty sure that game did not go to overtime. Like, that was like 40 minutes at the end of regulation. Like, I love Adebayo here. He went for 52 DraftKings points earlier this season against the Wizards. I know the Wizards are allowing like the 3rd most fantasy points to centers this season. Like, this is a team that you can just kill down low with bigs. Like, without Mo Wagner, without Thomas Bryant, no Rui Hachimura, no Davis Bertans. Like, they have no good defensive bigs that'll slow down Adebayo. The upside is definitely there for him in this matchup. And given that this game's being played in Washington, hopefully that helps with the blowout chances. Like, I was seeing earlier, or in some spots, I think this game has like a 9-point spread in some of the places I saw. Right now, the site I'm looking at, lines.com, they don't have a total for this game. But if I had to guess, I would say Washington's probably going to be like 9, maybe 10-point dogs. If Bradley Beal plays, then maybe you see that line shift a little bit. But if the game stays close and we get 36 minutes of Bam Adebayo against this Wizards team, like, he has so much upside here. So love Bam at 7,600. Love Whiteside as well. I think Whiteside's severely underpriced on DraftKings today. 7,100 against the Suns. I mean, he's one of the clear standout plays. Like, he's been underpriced on DraftKings literally every slate for like the last 3 slates. I mean, 7,900 against the Pelicans, went for 44 DK points, which is pretty solid for 7,900. He had a very disappointing game against the Jazz, where I think he really struggled with foul trouble in that game early on. Only played 22 minutes, 7,700 on that slate, 22 minutes and 18 DraftKings points. But then on Saturday night against the Lakers, he was 7,800, played 34 minutes, had 46 DraftKings points. After Whiteside went for 46 DK points at 7,800, they decided to drop him down to 7,100. Like, honestly, I feel like they were trying to make him 8,100, and they accidentally pressed the 7 instead of the 8. Like, I don't know why Whiteside's this cheap. Like, this is a spot where he can easily go for 6, 7x value on the salary. He's been like a 1.3 fantasy point per minute player this season. Something we're seeing with Portland that we didn't see back when he was with Miami, is that Portland's given him 34, close to 36 minutes, which he never got when he was with Miami. Like, the upside is so there for Whiteside, even though he's going to be chalky. Like, I think he's one of the best plays on the slate on DraftKings today. On Yahoo, Whiteside's actually $38. He's more expensive than Adebayo, more expensive than Gobert, more expensive than Vucevic. Still like him on Yahoo, just much less interested in. Like, definitely Adebayo is my favorite center over on Yahoo today. But Vooch I do like as well here against the Hawks. Probably more interest on Yahoo, where he's 34 rather than DraftKings. Like, DraftKings, I do prefer Adebayo for cheaper, and I do prefer Whiteside for cheaper. Gorgie Dieng's in a great spot. If Karl Anthony Towns is out, I would still have interest in Gorgie Dieng just because they're giving him the minutes. I mean, he's played 30, 36, 41 minutes, only 23 minutes last game against the Cavs, but I expect he plays probably 30, 32 minutes most nights with Towns out. So we'll need to watch the status of Karl Anthony Towns. That'll be pretty big. Obviously, that impacts Dieng a ton. If Giannis is out today, I absolutely love Brook Lopez at only 5,900. I think he's going to go severely overlooked on this slate. This is obviously one of the best possible spots you can get. We know how bad this Bulls team has been this season at defending bigs. I believe they've allowed the most fantasy points to power forwards and the second most fantasy points to centers this season. Brook Lopez has been really productive this season when Giannis is off the floor. He averages like 1.2 fantasy points per minute. They've been giving him pretty big minutes as well. Like, they're playing Lopez 28 to 30 minutes, sometimes more. Like, there's definitely 40-point upside for Lopez, especially if he's knocking down his shots, if he's blocking shots, which he's really good at. I really have a lot of interest in him at 5,900. On Yahoo, he is, where is he on Yahoo? He's $20 on Yahoo. I definitely have interest in him over there. Brook Lopez is like always the forgotten man whenever Giannis is out. People just flock to Middleton. They flock to Ersan. They flock to Bledsoe, but Lopez definitely gets forgotten, and he's got the upside. He's been productive with Giannis off the floor. But Ersan, you can play at center, who I talked about, I have interest in. Aaron Baines, I think, is one of the better values at center if you want to look to him. He's 4,900 on DraftKings. I like him quite a bit. On Yahoo, I think that's where he really stands out. Over on Yahoo, he is only $13 at center. Looks like one of the better values over on Yahoo. Christian Wood is at center, and he's $11. So both those guys you could consider. I think right now I'd prefer Baines. If we get the news that Christian Wood is starting at power forward, then I'd be fine swapping off of Baines to Christian Wood. Baines plays at 10 o'clock, Wood plays at 9 o'clock, so you'll be able to make that swap. But Baines has been playing pretty good minutes recently. He's been starting with DeAndre Ayton out. He's played at least 28 minutes in 4 straight games, 32, 29, 28, and 29 minutes. Hasn't been that productive, which is definitely like not something we usually see. Like Baines has been a productive player this season. I can look at his numbers. I forgot to I didn't mean to close out a court IQ. But I know Baines has been like a 1.1, 1.15 fantasy point per minute player this season. But we'll run it just real quick so I can see. We'll take DeAndre Ayton off the floor since we know that Ayton is going to be out today. And this is a really good matchup. I know Whiteside has struggled defensively. Like Whiteside's never been that good of a defender. He can block shots, but he's never been like an elite defender. I know Portland's allowed like the 6th or 7th most fantasy points to centers this season. They have really struggled on the glass as well. Baines has faced Portland once this season. He came off the bench in that game, and he only played 18 minutes off the bench, but he did have 24 fantasy points in 18 minutes, so he was really productive. But just this season with DeAndre Ayton off the floor, Aaron Baines has averaged 1.06 fantasy points per minute, so just over a fantasy point per minute with a 20% usage rate. Pretty solid numbers for a $13 center that's probably going to play 30 minutes. They're going to need his size to defend Whiteside. I expect pretty much as long as Whiteside's out there, then Aaron Baines is going to be out there. So I like him a lot as a value on Yahoo, $13. I think he is in play on Draftkings as well. Only reason I didn't include him in the Draftkings core is because I love Adebayo today. I love Whiteside. You play those two guys, that takes away your potential to play Baines. Like if only Baines had power forward eligibility, then you could get him in there. But I think that's probably it for center plays, for center values. If I'm going cheap at the position, I definitely think Baines is the best value, at least as of now. You can also play Christian Wood at center. But yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered the 6-game slate. I know this is a pretty long video. I talked much longer than I thought I would. But hopefully you guys found this video to be enjoyable, got a lot of information out of it. Hopefully this video did help you. If you enjoyed, you can always drop a like before you get out of here. I would greatly appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. Click that notification bell so that way you get notified every time I upload. You can also follow me on Twitter, link down below at DFS by Noah. And if you want to get access to all of my updated and in-depth content, get all of my updated thoughts on the slate, you can check out my Patreon, link down below, patreon.com/DFS by Noah. You can see all the exclusive content I have to offer over there. Get access to my articles, my player, or like kind of like my player pool. Pretty much my article like is my player pool for the day. My article where I provide a lot of updates. I give updated core plays. I make a lineup building video that I post in the afternoon, Monday through Friday. All of my NBA content is posted Monday through Friday on Patreon. I do also have a Discord chat that you can join where I'm in there throughout the day, along with all the other Patreon subscribers. Talk through the slate with everybody. Get your questions answered. Pretty much, I'm in there to help you guys build out your lineups as we get closer to lock. So check out the Patreon. See all that I have to offer over there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Good luck tonight. I appreciate you watching. See you in the next one. Peace.